What is Orthodox Christianity, Episode 3, with Father Peter Farrington? The apostles took the Christian faith in different directions, so that the one church would be established in places thousands of miles apart. Some of the apostles have left us with very detailed information about their lives and ministries, while others are subject to the tradition of the church. This episode will describe what the church understands about the biography of the various apostles and those who followed them immediately after the resurrection and ascension of Christ. Peter and Paul. Both were martyred in Rome about 66 AD during the persecution under the Emperor Nero. St. Paul was beheaded. St. Peter was crucified upside down at his request, since he did not feel worthy to die in the same manner as his Lord. Archaeological evidence shows that St. Peter's Church in Rome is built on the site of a first-century Roman cemetery where St. Peter was buried. From the earliest times, both St. Peter and St. Paul were also commemorated together on the Ostian Way. Writings from about 200 AD show that there were already well-known memorial locations for St. Peter and St. Paul in Rome that drew numerous pilgrims. Andrew. He went to the land of the man-eaters in what is now the Soviet Union. Christians there claim him as the first to bring the gospel to their land. He is said to have traveled to Asia Minor and the Black Sea. In the city of Sinope, he is believed to have suffered great hardships, and the house he was in was nearly burnt down. He returned twice more to Asia Minor and Greece, even traveling as far as Hungary, Russia, and to the banks of the Oder in Poland. In Greece, Andrew forced his way through a forest inhabited by wolves, bears, and tigers, and finally in Patras, he was given the choice of being offered as a sacrifice to the gods or being scourged and crucified. By his own request, the cross was diagonal. He, like his brother Peter, felt himself unworthy to be crucified on the upright cross of Christ. He hung for 3 days on the cross, fixed not by nails but by rope around his hands and feet, and even in his last agony he continued to preach. Thomas. He was probably most active in the area east of Syria. Tradition has him preaching as far east as India, where the ancient community of Indian Orthodox Christians revere him as their founder. They claim that he died there when pierced through with the spears of 4 soldiers. The Didascalia, dating from the 3rd century, states, India and all countries close to it, even to the farthest seas, received the Apostolic ordinances from Judas Thomas, who was a guide and ruler in the church which he built. Philip. Philip was sent with his sister Mariamna and Bartholomew to preach in Greece, Phrygia, and Syria. Through a miraculous healing and his preaching, Philip converted the wife of the proconsul of the city. This enraged the proconsul, and he had Philip, Bartholomew, and Mariamne all tortured. Philip and Bartholomew were then crucified upside down, and Philip preached from his cross. As a result of Philip's preaching, the crowd released Bartholomew from his cross, but Philip insisted that they not release him, and he died on the cross. Philip is also said to have been martyred by beheading rather than crucifixion in the city of Hierapolis. Matthew. He was the tax collector and the writer of a gospel, and he ministered in Persia and Ethiopia. While preaching in Ethiopia, Matthew converted and then consecrated to God Iphigenia of Ethiopia, the virgin daughter of King Egippus. When King Hyrtacus succeeded Egippus, he asked the apostle if he could persuade Iphigenia to marry him. Matthew thus invited King Hyrtacus to liturgy the following Sunday, where he rebuked him for lusting after the girl, as she was a nun and therefore was the bride of Christ. This enraged the king, and he ordered his bodyguard to kill Matthew, who stood at the altar, making him a martyr. Bartholomew. After the Ascension, Bartholomew went on a missionary tour to India, where he left behind a copy of the Gospel of Matthew. Tradition narrates that he served as a missionary in Mesopotamia and Parthia, as well as Lycaonia and Ethiopia in other accounts. Popular traditions say that Bartholomew preached the gospel in India and then went to Greater Armenia. One tradition speaks of him being kidnapped, beaten unconscious, and cast into the sea to drown. Another account states that he was crucified upside down, and another says that he was skinned alive and beheaded in Azerbaijan or Turkey. James. He was the son of Alphaeus, and is one of at least 3 James referred to in the New Testament. There is some confusion as to which is which, but this James is reckoned to have ministered in Syria. The Jewish historian Josephus reported that he was stoned and then clubbed to death. Papias, a bishop who lived in the 1st century, says, Mary, the mother of James the Less and Joseph, wife of Alphaeus, was the sister of Mary, the mother of the Lord, whom John names Cleophas, either from her father or from the family of her clan or for some other reason. Simon the Zealot. The exact details of his death are not known, but there are several accounts of his death in different parts of the world. According to the Golden Legend, he died as a martyr in Persia around the year 65 AD. Ethiopian Christians believe that he was crucified in Samaria. It was said in the 16th century that he was sawed in half, but others claim that he died of old age in Edessa. Another tradition suggests that after evangelizing in Egypt, Simon joined Jude in Persia and Armenia or Beirut, Lebanon, where both were martyred in 65 AD. Matthias. According to the Acts of the Apostles, Matthias had been with Jesus from his baptism by John until his ascension. There are different accounts of how Matthias died. According to Hippolytus of Rome, Matthias died of old age in Jerusalem. However, other traditions suggest that he was crucified in Ethiopia by the region of Colchis, now in modern-day Georgia. Alternatively, he was stoned at Jerusalem by the local populace and then beheaded. John. The only one of the apostles generally thought to have died a natural death from old age. He was the church leader in the area around Ephesus and is said to have taken care of Mary, the mother of Jesus, in his home. During Domitian's persecution in the middle 90s, he was exiled to the island of Patmos, and there he is credited with writing the last book of the New Testament, the Revelation. An early Latin tradition has him escaping unhurt after being cast into boiling oil in Rome. Jude. St. Jude was Jesus' cousin and one of the 12 apostles. He is often referred to as Judas Thaddeus, so as not to be confused with Judas Iscariot, the apostle who betrayed Jesus and delivered him to the Romans to be crucified. He is credited with spreading the gospel throughout Mesopotamia, a biblical land that now encompasses Iraq, Kuwait, Syria, and Turkey. He is considered the founding father of the Armenian Apostolic Church. St. Jude was martyred and buried in Beirut in approximately 65 AD. These early traditions, many with enough evidence to be considered history, represent the understanding of the Church from the beginning that it was and is apostolic, rooted in the missionary activity of the apostles and the apostolic men and women who served with them in different places. There were no independent churches apart from the authority, the teaching, and the ministry of the apostles. And in every place, however distant it found itself, it was important and even essential that it found itself connected in some way with the apostolic authority, which was given by Christ to the church, and which remains in the church, preserving it in unity of faith and practice through all the ages.